everyone, and welcome to the Business of Behavioral Health. My name is Alicia Williams. I am the CEO of Humanity in HR, where we help human services organizations with staffing, employee relations, anything HR related. Additionally, I happen to be the CEO of U-Turn Behavioral Health Services. We are licensed in Maryland to provide medication management, therapy, and PRP services to adults and children. I have here with me today Dr. Thomas to talk about building a team that does not burn out as it relates, of course, to mental health organizations. Dr. Thomas, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about our conversation today.
As am I. If you could please share with the audience your background as it relates to mental health and your wealth of knowledge and experience, and how what's so important about your expertise to really give key points on today's topic regarding burnout when it comes to mental health. Um, Hold on one second. I gotta edit that out. All right, let me start over. Let me start that part over.
Okay.
Okay. Aaliyah, so if you can cut that part out and then start this part over regarding me introducing Dr. Thomas. Okay. Dr. Thomas, thank you so much for being here with us. I do appreciate you coming today. I know you have so much knowledge to share with us. If you could just share with us a minute or two about your background, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm originally from Hampton, Virginia. I'm in Temple Hills, Maryland right now. I got here by the way of Howard University. I went to the School of Social Work 20 years ago. I started out in special ed and accessibility services, and found out that there was a need for my teachers and my practitioners to talk about sex and sexuality and to get just a better grasp on how to just give better service. And so I have a degree in education and curriculum development. I taught at University of Southern California School of Social Work for 11 years. Moved to University of Maryland, a School of Public Health, where I helped them work instill one of their programs to talk about culture and competency. And then I also ended up getting my doctorate degree in organizational change and leadership out of University of Southern California. And I mention that because I do come with a wealth of knowledge around burnout. I did my dissertation working with peer support workers and burnout, especially during the time of COVID and kind of when the world, I don't know, started to become on fire. And so I really helped them assist in being able to not only change in this new market of doing everything online, but how are we also keeping organizations accountable for taking care of them as well. My last position was I was the executive director of accreditation. And so now I just go around and I'm a certified sexual health educator. I help teach people how to do their jobs a little better. And then I also have a book out right now on burnout. It's called Accountable Care and Identity Camaraderie for transgender and queer service providers. So it gives us a better idea of how are we going to stay in this business as long as possible, especially with the world on fire. So that's me in 90 seconds.
Thank you so much for sharing. So definitely, I'm well versed in our topic today. So let's get started. In your opinion, why is burnout so common in behavioral health? Because that's so tricky. Think about it. The professionals that are trained and hired to take on the problems of other people, how is it so common? Because I know a lot of them, they're required to also attend therapy. So what do you think is causing the burnout with our behavioral health providers?
Yeah, I will say that there's always, first of all, we have a tendency to want to help, right? That is just, I think, the nature, even in my research, the nature of burnout comes from this idea that people are just doing more because they feel an obligation. I want to show up for my clients. I want to show up for my community. I want to show up for people who I'm working with. And so, I think it's always a commonplace for if you want to give parts of yourself or you use parts of yourself in practice that it can cause you to become more stressed than other professions, talking about doctors, lawyers, etc., right? I think they're all on the same scale of just like experiencing burnout. What I have found now is that that is becoming more prevalent, especially after 2020, right? And what happened in 2020? COVID. what happened during COVID? We all went to the computer, right? In my study, I showed that there was an expansion, a very high or increased amount of calls needing for services by the general public to mental health practitioners. And so I think two things were happening. For one, I think people were being bogged down with so much the demand was increasing, right? Because people were not well. I think the other thing that happened is that we're all sitting on a computer and we just don't realize the long-term effects of what is happening when we're sitting in front of these devices for a long periods of time. Our work is dependent on phones and computers now. So I think that people are experiencing burnout now, even with the support, right? Thank goodness for the therapists who have therapists. But I think even with the support, it has been really difficult to catch up with the demand because everybody needs assistance right now.
Yeah, and the tricky part, ever since COVID, therapy can be done virtually more so.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so the tricky part is you want the work-life balance as a behavioral health provider, but now that kind of bleeds over into other responsibilities. You don't
Yes.
always have that dedicated, let's say, 9 to 5 time. It may be between dinner and bedtime for the kids now.
100%. Yeah, you're just fitting it in where you have some time available, right? So that doesn't bode well for a work-life balance either. So, yeah.
So
Yeah.
how would you suggest that behavioral health professionals get that professional boundary where it's not bleeding over into their personal life?
They have to realize that being online and being in person are two different things, right? Like we say that, but it's also like one thing I learned when I taught for University of Southern California, I was remote, so I taught all 11 years on the computer. East Coast all the way to the West Coast. And so what I realized being an online professor is that there is no office hours, right? There's no door. There's no that boundary doesn't exist. So people would send me emails all types of night. They would send me text messages all types of night because you're open, right? It's here. You'll get to it, and hopefully you get to it immediately, right? There's also just not this aspect of this like this 24 hours, 48 hours, and there's a demand that comes from my job as well. So I think that people have to learn where are your hard stops, right? Where the time and to schedule breaks, making sure that you have time to step away, give yourself a body break, go outside, all right? Take a walk, get something to eat. There's so many times that we just sit with a cup of coffee and we never get up again until 4:45. So just remembering that you have to take a break and you have to treat the computer as if it also has boundaries and time stops too.
Hmm, that's interesting. Well, the tough part too is as an employer, how do you tell the difference between burnout and someone that's just underperforming?
Oh. That's a good question. But I think to find the answer, I would just ask the same question of what's going on, right? Like where is is it passion, right? Is it commitment? Is it there's just too much going on at home? Is it there's an influx and the person is not trained well enough? There's not enough assistance. Do we need another position? Like I think to find that answer out before I'm just like, this person's just not interested in this anymore. I need to find out what are they interested in, right? Like what is catching their priority right now if it's not work. And that doesn't mean that work always needs to be the priority, right? But I think it's being realistic that people are people, right? Like people have lives. Like 2020 has done a number on a lot of us. 2026 is doing, is whooping all of us right
It's like
now,
number
right?
two in line after
Right.
2020.
It's just like okay, I'm
Yeah.
ready. And it's almost like every day you just don't know what's the next thing, right? So I think we have to dial it back. I don't know another way to say this, but we have to bring a level of humanity to people right now. And it might be that a person is not committed to their job in the same way. It might not be because they're just like, well, forget this job. It might be because they have other stuff going on. We have to be able to meet people where they are first to make those other decisions to figure out what are some next steps for all people.
I find that to be very tricky because we're taught as if you're a mental health provider, you're taught to meet your clients where they are. But as the owner and CEO of an HR company and a mental health clinic, that's not what we're taught. We're taught compliance because the state and CARF and JCO, they're not meeting us where they are. They're telling us where the bottom line is, and we have
Yeah.
to adhere to that. There's no gray area, there's no black and white. It is what it is.
Yeah.
How did you because that's the tricky part that I find balancing the requirements of the role, because everybody has a role they have the requirements for, and what else may be going on in the individual's life. So
Yeah.
what I think works just in general is setting those requirements from the beginning.
Yeah.
Just standards like, hey, we need you to see 10 clients, whatever that is, because no matter what's going on to be employed here, this is what's required.
This is what it is.
Because the same way, no matter what's happening with me, when payroll comes, nobody's going to ask me, so let's meet you where you are. What's been happening? I know your
Right.
father has cancer and your mother has dementia. Nobody cares. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news and being authentic like that and just saying, hey, that's nice therapeutically. And I think people have that luxury more so therapeutically than they do when you're operating a business.
And okay, okay, I'm trying to get excited. And I have a hard time with that. I think as a practitioner turned administrator, right? Like I think particularly in my last position, this was my first big girl position where I was an executive director and I was telling people what to do and I was doing this and I had a team and I could see how other people were training their team that way. I can see how the lines were drawn. There were hard boundaries. You have to do this. There's deliverables. And I get that because I've lived that for 18 years,
Yeah.
right? But I think what happened was I just chose not to do that.
Mm.
And but I still had the same level of there are still deliverables that we have, right? There are still parts of the job that need to be done. Let's also hold the fact that your dad's dying, right? Let's also hold the fact that you're going through a divorce. Let's also hold the fact that you just had a baby and you don't even know what your body's doing right now. Like we can do two things. I think it's a want and a will, right? And it does take on the administrator's part a little bit more time, right? And I know we're all about we got a list of things to do. We got to go here and go here. But I can't tell you how many times even I have taken an extra 30 minutes out of my day to sit with my employees and say, like, what's going on? Let's strategize. Let's do this right now. Like, does this feel better to you? We've sat down 30 minutes so you can take 3 extra days off to grieve.
Mm.
Worth it. Worth it for
Right.
you to come back to work, right? Because
Right.
that's the real tea. I want to treat you well so you come back
Right.
to work. You enjoy coming. It's hard. Accreditation was hard. I didn't understand half as a person coming in. I was like, well, too many policies,
Yeah.
so many things to learn. But when I made that place feel good for people to do well, they were okay with it being hard because they knew that I had their back, whatever it was. So I think there's a choice. It just takes time. It's just a little extra time off of our plate to make somebody want to be at work.
Mm. The tricky part that I've found, and we talked about this a little bit pre-podcast recording, is that when I was working at places like the state, where everybody gets a salary, no matter what, you get your salary. So whether you're performing, not performing, they have to move hell and high water to get rid of you. You're going to get your salary. But now, being a CEO, we literally eat what we catch. So if
Yeah.
somebody's not performing, the money just doesn't come in. It's no, it's a hard line.
Yeah.
And it
Mm-hmm.
tells if someone is being productive or not. In a way,
Yes.
in a way,
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
lowest level, I'll say the lowest level, because you don't really know if when they meet with their clients if they're giving all they can. So at the lowest level, it tells if they're productive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's always just an interesting nuance that I've noticed between for-profit, nonprofit, governmental agencies. It's a little bit different. I think the approach can somewhat be different.
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah.
of course, whatever your position is in terms of if you're managing folks can be different too. But like you said, if you can take a little bit of time to help see where people are,
Yeah.
But you know what else too, Dr. Thomas, I'm realizing is that most folks that I've encountered in this field, when we're talking about burnout, they have 3 and 4 jobs.
Oh, okay, that part.
And that's also a choice. So for me as the employer, I know you have 3 or 4 jobs, but I'm concerned about my job.
Right. And the thing is, like, it's a choice. And sometimes people make the choices because the jobs don't, people need to, right? Like it's also a high, like that's also, I will say the scary part about it, where it's just like people are just holding a lot all at once.
Mhm.
And so it's not, I think going back to your point of just like high level, low level, are people committed to a job? I think that some of it is also just like it's not like I don't want to do it. Right? It's not like I don't want to meet all the requirements. Not why I don't, but I just can't show up 100% because I'm tired. I'm worn out. I'm, going through it. It's yeah, and I hope that also administrators also realize that we be going through it too, right? Like I think it's like I think I also give that compassion because I want that compassion when things are happening in my life as well. But I also have to give a good example, right? Of just like if I need to take a day or two off, if I need to step away, I still need to show my team that I can come back and still perform, or ask for help when I need help. Like be honest in that way too.
Whenever you see employees going towards burnout, are there any systems that you suggest that employers put into place that could possibly improve the results for the employer, but also for the employee to maybe decrease the likelihood of burnout?
Sure. I mean, I think again, it just goes back to us making sure that we have a conversation about what is on your plate, like what are the things that are happening, and people go as deep or as superficial as they want to about their personal life. But sometimes, as the employer, I don't know all of what you do, right? As your superior, I don't know all of the pieces. So, are there things that we can offset a little bit so they're not overwhelming? If it's truly I will also say that we talk about like extreme stress and burnout in two different ways. By the time burnout comes, you're out, right? It's kind of just like it's hard to come back. But if I see somebody is stressed out and overwhelmed, then we can talk about stepping away. But I also know shout out to the behavioral health professionals who are like, but then I step away and I come back and I have like 5,000 notes that I have to finish, right? Or my clients are all in crisis or something's happening. So that doesn't feel restful. And so I like to start thinking about how can we divvy up your task or really some of your tasks until you are able to come 100%. And so, yeah, again, I think it's asking questions. I think it's strategizing, but I also want to make sure to be clear that I also hold the line to what we all need to do in order to keep this ship running. And if we got to do 10 deliverable hours this week, that's what has to be done. We just figure out the other places in order to get support. So.
Makes sense. So what leadership or cultural mistake would you encourage other owners or organizational leaders to avoid when it comes to burnout?
Okay, so in my book, I talk about like being aware of what's happening in the world. And so I really do encourage, however you do this, right? Because it can be, you get a text message, you watch CNN, you watch, you watch TikTok, however. But I do think as employers, it is our responsibility to be responsible for what's going on in the world. We have to be informed because now at this point in time, things are directly affecting us no matter what we look at in life, no matter what our, whether it's business, healthcare, behavioral health, teaching, academia, everybody's being affected, right? And so it behooves you not to have some level of information about what's happening and how it's affecting your employees. So that's what I would suggest. I know people are like, I don't want to get political. Well, political is doing us. Right? Like, so it's not even about picking or choosing at this point. So for you, being mindful of how things are just generally affecting people, I think is a first step to making us a better human.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. For us, I put on my agenda for our staff meeting for next week to talk about, and we won't go too deep into politics. When I talk to them, I literally just say, due to some political changes, since we are a Medicaid provider, we want to make sure that we're accepting other insurances because, again, we get back to the business side of it.
Yeah.
The overarching theme of this podcast is the business of behavioral health. There's a business behind it. As much as
Yeah.
we have gone to school to provide these services, we cannot do that without getting paid. Charity starts at home. We got to
Yeah.
make sure that we're able to be reimbursed for these services. So one way, of course, to do that is through insurance. You know, so without going deep into politics, I will say something like, hey, according to these political changes, we had to make changes strategically to make sure that we are able to still help people when these
Yeah.
just come into play because they can impact the business and they can impact their employment as well and our ability to
Hmm.
provide services, you know, and it may
Hmm.
even change who we provide services to.
Yeah. Keeping people informed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're
yeah.
just generally keeping people informed.
Mhm.
Yes.
Point.
Yes.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
could just spend like a minute or two just talking about your book as it relates to building a team that doesn't burn out.
Sure. So my book, Accountable Care and Identity Camaraderie for Transgender and Queer Service Providers, even though the name is specific to a group of people, I've really structured this book as a conversation about the experience of direct service providers, particularly behavioral health professionals, how they are experiencing burnout, like what are the aspects. And my part of the research I really wanted to find out was in the connections that we make with each other, to the work that we're doing, to the people who are in the organization. How are those contributing to our aspects of burnout? But also, what is the organization's responsibility to be able to care for those folks as well? So, some of the suggestions I make for one is being aware what's going on in the world, bringing some of your employees that are actually doing the on the ground work up in administrative roles, being able to give a sense of a training, giving some training and some guidance and mentorship. I make a joke of just like pizza parties and t-shirts still work. So making sure you're spoiling your, employees with that. I love a good free t-shirt.
Yeah.
So, making sure you're spoiling that. But it's just some tools and tricks to think about how we are just going to be able to stay in the business as long as possible. And how are we keeping our organizations accountable for making sure that we have a level of care as well?
Thank you for sharing that. And there's always a tricky balance of, um, watching your staff for burnout, making sure they're accountable, but then also adding that element of support. What are some things that you've seen employers add to give additional support? I know communication has been big. Whenever, for us, we have really use our admin team to lean on them for some of the tasks that sometimes clinicians have to do. So, for instance, like referrals, something like that, you don't need your years of expertise and degrees to fill out a referral. If your client
Hmm.
one will do it, let you focus on those things that you're trained to do. So, what are some other ways you've seen employers really support their staff to help lower the likelihood of burnout?
Or other ways that I've seen, like I said, my real favorite that I like is just being able to see the talents that your employees have and being able to use some of their ideas to be able to include in the structure of the organization. I find that if we are able to use not just the roles that people are doing, but the other talents and things that people can give in a space, people want to commit to doing the job, right? People want to be at the employment. So I think it is our responsibility as folks who are doing supervision or mentorship or taking care of employees to make that place where people can not only grow within their work, but grow as people. I also really encourage folks, if you are able to do professional development. Even, when I, in my last position, some people did stuff related to their job, but I had one person like get a certificate in like ceramic making. Right. And that's what they did. And it was just like, and the way that she came back and talked about her experience in making ceramics and how it related to the job and things that she learned, like we were all fascinated by then, right? Like we have to be able to reshift the way that we are investing in folks. It's hard. Work is hard. This is hard, right? Like all of these things are hard. Like, what can I do to at least see you as a person a little bit more than I did the day before?
So, as we conclude, Dr. Thomas, what are two points that you would like the listeners to leave with today?
Sure. 2 points. I know we live in a world to where we're talking about work has to be, work is the family, right? We want to be a family. Um, as a clinician, I want to also warn you that not everybody has a great relationship with their family, right? Not all families are built the same. Not everybody has the same investment in family. So if you are able to, I think my second point is if you're able to commit to the kindness of people, the humanity of people, how they are in the world, who they are in the world, who they take care of, how they take care of themselves, I think that you're going to have a better team and you're going to be able to prevent burnout just through genuine and authentic relationships and not necessarily in a structure that not everybody feels comfortable in. So I think those are my 2 points.
Oh, makes sense. So if someone would like to reach out to you to hear more about your book or some type of consultation, what's the best way?
Sure, you can find me, Shanea Thomas on LinkedIn, or you can email me, Dr. Shanea P. Thomas, DrShaneaPthomas @gmail.com. If you Google me, I'm a little bit of everywhere, but I appreciate you. Thank you very much for having me. This was a great conversation.
Absolutely. And if anyone would like to reach me, LinkedIn is where you can always find me day in and day out. I'm not even on any other social media, like actively, honestly. I'm on LinkedIn. So Alicia Williams is where you'd find me. And then, of course, email works too. I would say you can email contact@humanityinhr.com. And that's the easiest way to reach me by email. Dr. Thomas, thank you so much again for your time. And today we talked about building a team that does not burn out. And this is on the business of behavioral health. So again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.